Yeah, definitely a bad call. I'll give that to you guys. I think we can all agree on that. But I'm gonna just say this to you guys. Like I said, we can say all we want about the offense right now, but I tell you what, the defense. I mean, yeah, I mean, throughout the season, they've been playing some good quarterbacks right now. Okay, let's be honest. But my biggest issue right now when I'm looking at this, I mean, their pass defense is not holding up their end of the bargain. But the block field goal, I mean, it really could. It definitely, I think, demoralized the Steelers for the most part. I mean, took their this. I mean, any hope they had in this game, and it's sickening because you know what? There always seems like be getting called offsides for like block field goals in recent memory. Even like 3 years ago, Sunday night versus the Chargers, when they blew a 16-point lead. I was at that game. I thought, the thing is, when I'm watching that play, I mean, Hayden is moving while the ball is being snapped, but it was not offside. And Ryan Clark said the way he was moving at the tail end. He was not past the neutral zone. And that was definitely right there. I mean, it took the wind out of their sails. Steelers did not have much of a response there in this game. I mean, instead, too, I mean, Aaron Rodgers and his crew right now, they go to 3-1 after her having a horrendous start, scoring 3 points versus the New Orleans Saints, and they lost. And here we go right now. Steelers are bottom feeders in the division. It is a damn shame to even be looking at that right now. But you got to really question right now just all the decision making by your guy under center right now. I mean, how you're involved in this offense, how you're trying to reshuffle the deck here and move forward. It just does not seem like a suitable fix. I mean, we've been seeing this right now. I mean, since that slide to the Washington football team, including the playoffs, the last 10 games. And you mean to tell me they went 2-8 since then? It is definitely some hard times right now. I'm not going to count this team out just yet, but it's definitely getting very close right now. And when you see a team right now, a Mike Tomlin led team, I hate to keep saying this because I really love him as a coach. I love the fact that they're competitive, but again, never made the playoffs when starting off with a losing record in the first month of the season. 0 for 3. Chuck Noll was 2 for 6 in those times, made in 1976, 1989. Bill Cowher, 3 for 4, making it in 1993, 1997, and 2002. 3 for out of his 4 opportunities. And I listen. And maybe, just maybe, Mike Tomlin needs to have a little bit more involvement with picking out the players. I mean, if Kevin Colbert is still on the brink right now, if he still wants to be staying on as GM on a year-to-year basis, has Mike Tomlin earned that right to take on a double role, be head coach / GM for this team? I would welcome it. But I'm not so sure. I mean, how would it mean in the long run? I'd like to hear your thoughts. For you guys in the chat right now, or who are looking at this stream right now, what do you guys think? Would you trust Mike Tomlin as your head coach / GM? If Kevin Colbert decides to move on, how would you like that? Would that something you'd be on board for? I'd like to hear your comments. Feel free to let me know, and I appreciate the likes coming, guys, right now. We are still recapping the Steelers versus Packers post-game show here, part of Show Blitz as well, and the Meta Steel podcast. We're going to get into some more stuff later on throughout this show right now. I'm also going to give you my quick thoughts right now around the league. Who's the hottest team right now in both the NFC and the AFC? Early MVP candidate who I like so far right now. It's looking good. And we'll get into that much more. Again, if you guys want to follow me, you guys can follow me on Twitter at Mass Steel CGR and on Instagram at Mass Steel Nation right now. And let's continue to move further too. The injuries in this game too. Another thing, which has been, where we continue to see things right now. During the game, two Steelers players suffered the following injuries. Kevin Dotson, hip flexor, who's his left guard, and of course, right cornerback Cam Sutton, groin injury. I am not impressed with the secondary. Like I said, this team needs to win the turnover battle. If they're not forcing turnovers on defense, and if they can just find a way to do a better job taking care of the ball, it usually proves well for the Steelers. They're in the playoffs. Throughout their history, 86% of the time when they win those turnover battles for the year. And right now, when you take a look at where they're at, going into this, especially right now, with this thing, for the Steelers right now, who went up against the Packers right now for turnover ratio, they are now -2. Folks, you know what? You're going to be looking at another wasted season. I hate to tell you, if this trend continues. I cannot call this team a Super Bowl defense. Playoff defense, another story. But Super Bowl defense, I don't think so. And I'll tell you what, I will say this, though. One guy who's definitely been kind of taking people been daring to question a little bit. About as far as like not participating in team drills, but he was being present during training camp. I'm talking about none other than TJ Watt. Even someone, a former Steelers player, linebacker, I'm not going to say his name. You can catch him on YouTube. He does a show covering the Steelers. I'm not going to call him out, but I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. You got to believe right now, say what you will, he got his money. TJ Watt has been worth every penny so far this year. Every damn penny. For the most part. Look at it. For a guy who has not participated in hardly any of his team drills throughout the offseason and played throughout the season after getting paid, still leads his team in sacks with 5, 8 quarterback hits, 3 tackles for loss. He still leads his team in those categories. And not only that, number 1 in forced fumbles for his team. And he had 2 out of the 3 sacks yesterday. Talking about a guy who's still, playing for a groin injury, who was cleared enough to play this weekend. I'll be honest with you, I think he answered some critics yesterday, to be truthfully honest with you. He's done a fabulous job so far, in this game. And I have no, for all the people who want to doubt this guy, I'll tell you what, he cashed his check. Now it's the question, can he do enough to will this defense to a playoff, to a Super Bowl eventually? I'm not sure about this season. But this time, once again, right now, they're in a familiar spot like they were 2 years ago at 1-3. They really got to change things up right now. They have to. Other than that, it's goodbye season right now for the most part. I think TJ Watt, he does get my game ball on defense for this game. And on offense, game ball, I'll give it to Deontay Johnson. He caught 9 out of his 12 targets for 92 yards in this game. Had the opening touchdown. Deontay Johnson, a guy who still continues to struggle with securing catches. Not bad yesterday. 9 out of 12 targets, that only means he dropped 3. I will say the only one I was probably a little bit critical on him was probably the following drive after the Packers score, a 3rd and 5 pass. But again, a lot of it's on Ben Roethlisberger. I mean, too. I mean, you gotta be like giving your guy a lot more better opportunity to be involved more. And this is the bottom line right now. I mean, as long as you continue to stay married to Ben Roethlisberger, have this guy around, and you have an offense coordinator who's willing to cater towards him, try and clean up some of the language and the play calling. If Ben Roethlisberger truly wants what's better for this team, he has to change some things about himself. If you're not willing to get yourself under center more, throw the ball deeper. I still got questions if that arm is still a little bit like sore. I just find that hard to believe. It almost seems like it's been like a quick security blanket since he's been coming back. Ever since they had their first loss of the season last year versus the Washington football team. I mean, now when you look at it too, I mean, ever since that loss to the Washington football teams, I mean, he has 12 touchdowns and 12 interceptions in those games. I mean, and then also too, I mean, yeah, it's definitely a shamble right now. Not the same guy we once know and love here for obviously. I mean, for this moment, but now 0-6, 12 touchdowns, 12 interceptions since then in regular season games. Could not be having that. And this is where we really gotta take a hard look at things right now. Red alert right now. Time to press the panic button for this team. Here's what Mike Tomlin had to say about this in his press conference following that game.
Like last week, you said you weren't pressing the panic button after this game. What's your level of concern about the direction?
I'm concerned, but I still maintain the same position.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, I would expect Mike Tomlin to say nothing less, but obviously he's going to have his poker face going forward right now. And I got to tell you right now, I mean, you cannot expect Art Rui to be pleased right now. I mean, still, I would imagine at this point when we look at it too, I mean, the only thing I can hope for, I mean, right now, I mean, listen, the running game still got a ways to go. I could say for the time being right now, pending tonight's game, rushing yards, obviously, they're still dead last in 221 yards. But again, they're not getting enough opportunities to run the ball. And let's think about this for a second. The Steelers right now have the lowest attempts at running the ball. That's dead last in the league. Of course, you're going to have dead last running the ball. You're not giving Harris more opportunities. 66 attempts right now. That is the lowest amounts given to a running back in the league because the offensive line is such a hot mess right now. I mean, and then when you also look at their yards per attempt too, I mean, the Steelers, I mean, that's 31st in the league, but you got to get involved more. You have to get involved more. And Harris right now, I mean, he could potentially be a future team MVP for this team. And I want to see Pat Freiermuth get involved. Involve your tight ends more. I mean, throughout this season, because I'll be telling you right now, there's only 3 guys that are shining bright right now. You could say Pat Freiermuth, then Najee Harris, and then your punter right now. I mean, Presley Harvin III. Who's doing real good for right now. Or let me re-rank that. Let's say Harris, Freiermuth, and Harvin. And that's where you got to look at it right now. Steelers for right now, they definitely got some work to do coming up. I mean, they're not making a comfortable bed right now with these losses racking up here. But I mean, coming up, I mean, you're going to be having a tough sledding coming up. You're going to have to be facing the Denver Broncos and the Seattle Seahawks going forward. And like I said, here's the only part too. I mean, let's just pivot away from the offense for a moment. I mean, like when we look at it, I mean, again, we have to pay attention to this defense. This defense is not where it's supposed to be. Total yards for right now, total defense, they are 17th in the league, giving up 1,431 yards. Scoring defense, not too bad. Could be a lot better. It's only 14th with giving up 93 points. And then the biggest alarming concern, too, the passing defense, which I continue to harp on. They're 19th in the league right now, allowing 1,035 yards and forcing turnovers. They only got 2 fumble recoveries and an interception. Remember what happened last time when they had low interceptions 3 years ago? Did not make the playoffs. It was not good. Takeaways for the year, they're 24th with a total of 3. That is not the Steelers defense we have known the last 2 years. And of course, I mean, the pass rush is definitely taking us a little bit of a slide back. I mean, I'm not too worried about that. I still think they could beat Blitzburg once again. I mean, even despite the fact that they didn't have no sacks last week versus Joe Burrow and the Bengals. But I do believe their sacks are not the worries right now. It is more about not getting burnt. You're playing good quarterbacks, I understand that, but you have to be better than this. The bench has to be a lot better than this. I mean, even Joe Hayden and Mika Fitzpatrick, I mean, like, you know, having moments in this game too, when you look at it, I mean, throughout, they had many opportunities on defense to close on numerous occasions. But Terrell Edmonds was in position to knock a pass away. He didn't. Both Mika and Joe Hayden, 2 of the more sure-handed defensive backs on the team, got their hands on passes they couldn't intercept. And that's what I'm talking about, folks. And then when you look at the other guys here, like coming off on your bench, I feel the bench is very concerning right now when you look at it. I think, like I said, the good guys on defense they signed so far have been Melvin Ingram and Joe Sherbert. Joe Sherbert definitely showed up once again. He had 8 total tackles, 5 of them being solo. He had pass deflection. Remember about Joe Sherbert, he could at least cover too. I mean, Devin Bush didn't have too much of a bad day. He had 5 solo tackles, a sack, tackle for loss, 2 quarterback hits. This game was 6 total tackles. I mean, he's been a guy who's been kind of like a little bit catching scrutiny throughout the year. But, I mean, when you look at the rest of the guys, too, I mean, Cam Sutton has to get rolling soon. I'm not sure if he's ready to be, you know, in that top option right now, opposite Joe Hayden. I'm not sure. And Joe Hayden, I mean, I think he's showing his age right now. Guy could still play. I won't be surprised if he gets an interception throughout the next coming games. But right now, I think we're definitely seeing possibly the end of the road here for Joe Hayden moving forward. And Highsmith, I'm still not so sold on yet, being opposite of T.J. Watt. And of course, you got Arthur Millett right here. He had 2 tackles for loss, 3 total tackles. I mean, they out-tackled their opponents. They had 68 total tackles on the day versus the Packers, 57 in this game. And this is where you have to do better right now. Knowing you got an offense who barely moves the ball up the field, who barely does enough to score consistently, I think you have Ben Roethlisberger. I just don't see him changing his style of play. I think that's going to make the decision right now. you have to look out right now for this guy's health. I mean, because right now, the more he keeps getting hit, how's this going to be post-career? He's had a Hall of Fame career, no doubt about it. Jerome Bettis, who was on Good Morning Football last week, I mean, really believes, I mean, Ben Roethlisberger's still there. I mean, he's still got ways. They're not protecting the quarterback, and they're not, like, giving themselves better opportunities to run the ball. I mean, he's still giving him thumb stamp of approval. But I think for a guy like Vince Williams, too, who also made a criticism of a guy at Juju Smith-Schuster, too, he was tweeting out right now yesterday that no way one overthrow. If the first one was caught, the second one wasn't there. True number ones would make that catch. And obviously, he's paid attention to the fact that Juju Smith-Schuster thinks himself as a number one receiver. But again, and if I think he's referring to like on the play right there, right now. I mean, when you look at it, I think it was that 4th and 5 play where we only got for 2 yards. I'm sorry. Listen, there were some balls that were like a little bit overthrown, whatever, or behind him. But Juju Smith-Schuster, I think he's doing his job. He's being more of a great supporting role. Truly not a number one receiver on this team. I don't see it. I mean, he's got great. I mean, he's got good hands. I mean, think about this. He's amongst his receivers. He's third in receiving yards, 4th overall on the team. Najee Harris has got 49 more yards behind him, but of course, Ben Roethlisberger seems to feel like Najee Harris is one of his security blankets. As far as receptions right now, Juju Smith-Schuster is 4th. Clutch percentage on the team. Juju Smith-Schuster is towards the bottom of this list right now. He's got 56% of his passes. He's been targeted 27 times, caught 15 of those passes. So, obviously, he's got to do better. Ben Roethlisberger has been alluded to. It's got to come both ways, but Ben, you got to be a lot more aware than that. And it's just a lot of people right now, even like Bob Papiani, who's been a big Ben supporter, even when they moved on from the Killer Bees and Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown, he's starting to have doubts about Ben Roethlisberger, his decision-making. I mean, he's in a spot right now where everyone's starting to slowly not be drinking the Ben Roethlisberger Kool-Aid anymore. And I think Mike Tomlin in a way, too. I mean, Mike Tomlin, he's got to do some soul searching right now. If there's ever a time right now where you have to make a ballsy decision, heart-to-heart talk, this is now. Because you still got enough talent on this team to be very competitive. Of course, we've seen the rehearsal 2 years ago. But again, with Mike Tomlin, my biggest criticism, after starting off, for the year 1-4, still found it enough to be 8-5, needed to win 2 out of the remaining 3 games, make the playoffs with some help, won a 3-game losing streak. You keep thinking the offseason right now, how it's been predicated. They're going to do a much better job of running the ball. Of course, we already knew the concerns about the offensive line. But it just seems like he keeps going backwards. That's just the part I cannot get over. And it's very disheartening because that has been part of their identity for the longest time, has been able to control the game on the ground. And I just don't see how it gets any better right now, unless teammates are willing to speak up and just pass the word around that saying we need a better direction to go in right now. for this time. Again, you guys can feel free to hit me up on Twitter right now. You can follow me at MassSteelCGR and on Instagram at MassSteel Nations. We look at right now. Going into this right now, Steelers right now in a uncomforting spot right now. Bottom feeders of the division of the AFC North. And very dangerously close to letting the season slip way out of control than what it's been. And they definitely got their work cut out moving forward as they try and prevent this team from going further off the tracks right now. To be honest with you, yeah, at some point I do think Bud needs to go. He's not the answer long term anymore. I mean, I still gave him the vote of confidence last year, including this season. I mean, Bob Pompiani was one of the people who kept alluding to that if he gives this guy the proper amount of rest on that throwing elbow, where he doesn't have to worry about recuperating or recovering, that he'd be much better. I mean, going forward. And you look at it right now, too, the sickening thing is, I mean, we saw a decent preseason where he had a perfect quarterback rating versus Detroit Lions. Again, that was preseason, but we all thought watching those drives right there, everything was going to be all right. And I'll tell you what, as crazy as this may sound, I really do believe right now the Steelers, they benefit last year, large part to COVID, not having much in attendance available, especially when they were on the road. I mean, that season could have been a lot interesting if there were live fans there. Of course, I mean, you're a product of who you are on the field, how you play, how you execute. But, I mean, having pumped up crowd noise on your speakers in your stadiums, not good enough. And especially when you're dealing with a COVID situation right now, what you continue to do, I do believe the Steelers hugely benefited from that. And the games I'm referring to where they definitely benefited from that, I'll definitely say the Titans, the Ravens game. I'll say those games in particular, not so much the Cowboys. Cowboys are always going to find a way to have fans, I mean, a decent amount of fans. But I think those games were definitely huge right there. Those were vital. And then don't forget, too, I mean, then when you also had COVID, I mean, kick in, I mean, where they had a missed game versus Titans, they had to get rescheduled. What ended up happening right there, I mean, when you think about it, I mean, you had 4 straight home games since your first road game of 2020 versus the Giants and the Broncos, the Texans, Eagles, and Browns. Then you finally had your pair of road games. You had 3 straight road games versus the Titans, the Ravens, and the Cowboys. Now when you look at this year, it's just, I think right now, the thing is with Ben Roethlisberger, it's a discipline I'm starting to see. This is just a team that is not working together lockstep, if you will. I think if anything, this is a team right now, they're trying to search and find out their identity. And I'll be honest with you, I mean, the biggest difference, you also look at it this way too. When Peyton Manning got benched, remember too, he was also playing years of neck injuries where he had to have laser neck surgeries on him. And that final season where it caught up with him when they won Super Bowl behind that defense. Remember, he also got hurt the year before in 2014, Peyton Manning did. And I mean, he still made enough plays to not lose the game. late in that season right there. But yeah, for the most part, I mean, Peyton Manning, who was at MVP level in 2013, when you look at it. I mean, let's think about this real quick. I mean, Peyton Manning in his final season in his NFL career as a Bronco, where he won his second Super Bowl behind a good defense. He had 9 touchdowns and 17 interceptions, still passed for over 2,000 yards. But I mean, he only started 9 out of 10 games that year. You had Brock Osweiler help out for a big chunk of those games that season. Thanks, Gary Kubiak. And I think really he had no choice because of his neck injuries. And if Ben Roethlisberger cannot learn from that, this is a season that's going to go down the drain real quick. And I hate to keep saying this, but right now I think you have to involve more guys. I think we need to see a little bit more out of this bench. I'm not going to use injuries as an excuse for this team. When you look at a Mike Tomlin coach-led team, you cannot have this. I think if anything right now, what we always keep hearing, the standard is a standard. And another thing is too, where the heck are they not going for more of these fourth down plays? I mean, everyone's got to look themselves hard in the mirror right now for this game. So as we continue to look a little bit further right now, you're watching the Steel podcast right now. We're talking right now what needs to be fixed. Like I said, we look at like the defensive side right now too, as I mentioned. And when you look at the players on defense, the only one that has your interception for the year is Terrell Edmunds right now, your safety. And as far as fumble recoveries, everyone's when you look at the defense, it's Watt and Hayward who are leading the team with the fumble recoveries. So I really do believe right now that's part of it, but the secondary has to get big. I'm going to continue to say that right now. And I'm going to be looking for more guys right now in particular for this team. Do we see a little bit more of James Washington get involved more? Does he need to get more opportunities right now? I mean, when you think of James Washington right now, a guy who's requested a trade back in August, that was reported, right around after the Hall of Fame game, he's been targeted the 5th most on his team. He's caught 9 out of his 13 targets for 99 yards, no touchdowns so far this year. I mean, that is a guy right here who definitely needs to get involved more. And James Washington, for the funny thing about it too, I mean, he's got the 2nd most yards per reception with 11 yards. Chase Claypool still leads that dynamic right there. I mean, Chase Claypool, who I think still right now, I mean, which is a head scratcher, he's got no touchdowns for the year. I believe that's got to change a little bit more. Remember, he was hurt in this game. But still, I mean, they had well of enough roster to make this thing fairly competitive. And the Steelers had their moments right there. This is a game, they should have been blown out in this game the way they were playing. They should have been. Especially how the offense continues to mess things up, puts them in horrible spots. And this is what you have right now. You're just laying a big fat egg for the season.